All right, Nick, let's talk about the Michigan Wolverines. Obviously, they've had a really, there's a lot of roadblocks everyone throws in the way of Michigan throughout the offseason. But despite all that, I think they've done really, really well. They've done well recruiting. We've done some videos on that showing that the trend is looking really good for the Wolverines. But let's not talk about new players. Let's talk about players who've been here for a while. And there's one guy in particular who this Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator of the Wolverines, really high on and having some really high praise, really high comps for the dude. I think it's absolutely insane. We'll get into the story here in just a second. But first, I'm Andrew. That's Nick. And this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, Wink Martindale come out and said some really high praise about an up-and-coming player. We're talking about Brandon Hillman, a guy coming in here to his third season with the Wolverines, already doing some good stuff, but we're hearing from Martindale once again more involved, and he's looking even better now through the offseason program. Let's get into the article and we talk more about it on the other side. So this is from SI.com. It says, Wink Martindale is an old school throwback type of football coach. No kidding. He stresses the details, preparation, and hard hitting. That last trait has earned defensive back Brandon Hillman huge kudos from Martindale. The 6-foot, 200-pound redshirt sophomore is expected to play a big role in this year's defense, and Martindale thinks he will set the tone early with his ferocity and willingness to lay his body out on every hit. I love the sound of that. It says he's like a heat-seeking missile back there. He likes contact. He falls in that old school type of football player, Brian Dawkins. That's some incredibly high praise there. It says those type of guys, the way he attacks the football and attacks going after the football when someone's going after it and everything else, he's going to be fun to watch these next few years. So I think Martindale talking about what they want to do with Hillman, get him more involved. We're already seeing him. He's high praise, seeing he's done a lot of good stuff early on in this offseason program. I think that's really important. But if we look at the stats, it shouldn't be surprising to people because this guy took a big jump from 2023 to 2024. So let's look at his stats for a second. This is Brandon Hillman. On the left-hand side in the darker blue is 2023. In the right-hand side, in the lighter blue color, is his 2024 stats. And we're looking overall grades, run defense, tackling grades. Let's look at this guy. A slight upgrade going from, in the 50s for his overall grade, 57.7 in 2023, makes a jump to 64.4 in 2024. A pretty decent jump there. We look at run defense. That's where the biggest improvement has been so far. 2023, 46.9 grade there. 2024 is 79.8. So maybe being a little bit too reckless, a little bit too much of his body on the line. Learn how to, kind of tone it in. Doing a really great job in the run defense category in 2024. And finally, tackling, going from a 51.2 to a 62.2 grade there in the tackling department, showing across all phases of the DB department, this guy has done really, really great as far as things that he comes out and does best. Attacks guys, really plays the run, throws his body on the line, very hard-hitting defensive back. Brian Dawkins, that's not my words, Wink Martindale's words, but I really like what he says there as well. So I think Brandon Hillman, this is a guy I'm looking for. Huge breakout year. We're seeing the improvement from 2023 to 2024, but now we're hearing Wink Martindale. This is a guy they want to use heavily. This is a guy they want to get more involved in the defense and have a big role this year. And we already saw the improvement, but now we're seeing the improvement. We're going to see him featured more. I think this is the potential to have an absolute massive year for Brandon Hillman. I think Wolverines fans should be really excited about this one. I'm done talking, Nick. I've said a lot of stuff about Hillman. I want to know what your thoughts are on this guy. But first, Wolverines fans, in the comments section below, I'm going to ask you a question here. There's a really easy answer. I don't want you to go on and say that one. We're talking the DB position. Who is your favorite Wolverines DB of all time? There's one really easy answer. That one is off the table here. So be a little bit creative. Let us know in the comment section below. Who's your favorite DB for the Wolverines of all time in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on everything involving Michigan here?
So I think this is really important because when you obviously look at this Michigan team, their weakness last year very clearly was the passing game, offensive football, and that's going to change. I think we look at the young quarterback going into year two with Sharon Moore leading the offensive charge as the head coach. I think we're going to see a lot more of his fingerprints on it. They were making the transition. They really didn't have their franchise signal caller, McCarthy, to where they're going to be this season. Of course, last year, like I said, it was kind of a weird year trying to figure everything out. Not going to have that same issue this year, at least the way it seems right now. But one of the things that can happen as a team, and this is just the way things go, is the pendulum can kind of swing. So you can be terrible on offense, terrible passing game, and be really good defensively. If you look at their PFF grades last year in the Big Ten as a unit, Michigan was the third best, right behind Indiana and Ohio State, two playoff teams, right? So obviously good company to be in, and obviously they beat Ohio State. Got to mention that whenever you talk Michigan, of course. But the defense was obviously still very, very good. The issue, though, is sometimes the pendulum can swing so much. We're like, okay, our offense is a problem. Let's focus all of our resources, transfers, recruits, sheer coaching time, developmental time, strategies from a high level down to the low level on getting our offense better. And sometimes you can have areas of your defense or whatever the area that's not the focus drop a little bit, especially when you have a lot of guys go to the NFL like Michigan did. In order to counteract that, you need young guys that can step up and take that next leap. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about here with Hillman. This is a guy who, again, trending in the right direction, had a really great offseason. Coach Martindale, as like you mentioned, the report has highlighted it, I believe, on numerous occasions. He's a guy ready to step up and be a dynamic playmaker on the back end of this defense. And they're absolutely going to need all hands on deck because look, we know they're going to be better at the quarterback position, but if you're riding with the freshman, there's going to be some turnovers. There's going to be some wackiness. There's going to be some sun change opportunities where defense has to go on the field not expecting to, and you got to hold the line in the red zone. You got to get a stop, right? You got to find a way to force a field goal or make a play, force a turnover to keep you in the game, right? It's going to be a lot of that volatility, at least honestly, my opinion here, the first half of the season until the freshman QB gets everything under control. I think he'll figure it out. I think he's going to be a really good guy. I think he's got all the talent, but it's going to take time. Let's be totally honest. We can't expect a freshman to come in day one and be hyper efficient and not have any turnovers. That would be, well, optimistic, but also unrealistic. I think you have to have a defense that's ready to step up, ready to take advantage of those opportunities. And Wink Martindale thinks he's got the pieces with a guy like Hillman. Look, it's going to be a weird year for Michigan. I think obviously they still got the hoopla and the drama. Hopefully that'll all finally be put to bed after all the suspension and stuff finally go away this season. I think it will. That we can go back to what really matters. And that's what happens on the gridiron on Saturdays. But I do think this Michigan team is trending in the right direction. If they can ride the storm with some early volatility on offense for the first half of the season with a stabilizing defense to help that out, I think they're going to be a force the second half of the season. And I think having young guys like Hillman, guys, developmental guys that have been waiting their turn, slowly getting better and better, and now taking advantage of their opportunities, guys like that will help settle out the defense, counteract some issues with the offense that'll just happen with the freshman quarterback, and then everything will stabilize from there, and they'll finish the season strong. This is why this is important, right? It is so key. If you're a young quarterback, you have a defense that has your back that you can trust, right? You know, if you have an interception or have a turnover, it didn't cost you the game, right? And I think that's going to give the Underwood all the comfort and the understanding he needs to be a successful quarterback and develop. Because anytime you got a young quarterback, you don't want to have this guy being like, oh, I got a chance to throw it down the field, but if I turn it over, I just blew the game because my defense is terrible. So let me just eat the sack and punt and live to fight another day. Listen, you want this young quarterback to learn when he can rip it, when he can't. In order to help him out, a defense that's quality on the other side of the line of scrimmage can help you out. And I think Hillman's a piece of that, right? And this is going to be a collective unit. Martindale, again, old school coach, old school mentality. It's going to be an aggressive defense. It's going to be a defense predicated on making big plays. A lot of guys are going to have to step up. It's not just Hillman. But look, if you look at Michigan right now, as a whole defensively, a lot of question marks, guys going to the NFL. So it's certainly a good sign that other guys are stepping up. If more guys can take over the gaps and really take control of this defense, this Wolverines team will be good the first half of the season with the defense leading the charge. Underwood gets his feet underneath him the second half of the season. And then when it's all said and done, I think they're pushing for a playoff berth. I think they're that good if the young QB can be ready and if the defense is ready to keep things going the early part of the season. And guys like Hillman stepping up can help the second part of that equation, while the first part of that equation, the young quarterback, earns his stripes, figures out how to play Big Ten football, and then we head into the fall with Michigan right in the thick of playoff contention.
Yeah, Nick, and I think, like you said, there's a lot of great stuff going on with Michigan. I think it will take a little bit of time to see the full power, the full development of the team, as you alluded to. Young guy Underwood at the quarterback position, but if we're being honest, this offense last year, it wasn't good. They ranked 99th in all of college football, and just overall offensive grade there, 70.7. I think with Underwood coming in, I do think there will be more volatility. Like you said, there's going to be some freshman learning curve. There's going to be a couple bumps in the road. I also expect there to be a little bit more explosiveness as well. So I think that's going to be good. I think we're going to finally see an offense that's a little bit more fun while there are turnovers, but guys like Hillman coming into the fold are going to be important. Michigan poising themselves in the way they have been ever since 2023 season, that really big year for the Wolverines. I think we're in a spot where we're going to have to see constant turnover on the defensive players. We're going to have to see young guys working up the ranks. We're going to have to see guys start to stand out. So I really love this from Hillman because this is a defense in Michigan Wolverines has been good. And you need these young guys to start coming up, stepping up, and doing really well and just keep the flow going. They have to keep it on the tracks because if the defense falters, like you said, the offense, I expect them to make a significant jump this year. I don't think they're going to be 100th, that maybe they'll be in the top 50, maybe be a little bit higher than that. But I think this defense is going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting. Like you said, turnover. There's a lot of guys that go to the NFL. I think Hillman is the type of guy they need to step up and continue the dominance on the defensive side of the ball. And it sounds like his attitude, his willingness to put his body on the line, that hard-hitting kind of player, that's the kind of guy you need on the field, a leader that's going to go out and lead by example. And I think that Michigan's going to be able to pull it off. I think this defense is going to do some good stuff. It's going to be fun to watch. And overall, we're going to see a team on the upswing that is going to get better and better the next couple of years.